Hello. We're back.
Hello.
Hey guys, welcome back. DeFi. I don't have my studio shot up. I'm all confused, but good to see you guys.
Great to see ya.
We're back. It's DeFi. It's a crazy day in the markets, as always. It literally always is. But today, I swear, it is special kind of crazy. With Vitalik Buterin saying, "Don't burn your shit coins in my wallet, bro. I will donate them." He donated over $1 billion to the India COVID Relief Fund, which may or may not ever be able to be liquidated. Interestingly, Sandeep, founder of Matic, just tweeted out basically saying, "Relax, SHIB community, we're not going to dump on you guys. We understand that you're people too, and COVID Relief Fund is important, but we're not going to absolutely destroy you guys." Because he's the founder of a big, strong community coin as well with Matic, community coin, but you know what I mean. So anyways, like crazy action right now. He sent 500. So basically, we're going to dive into all of those details. We can walk you through Vitalik's wallet. It's been a really interesting thing to watch. I only very recently got into the dog mania, just more from an interest point of view, like what is going on here? There's, yesterday there was something like every 2 minutes, there was a new dog token just being minted, placed in there. People were spotting that, buying it. You can get a 5X in 10 minutes and then it rug pulled. Like it was heinous for $300 fees.
It's super heinous. Honestly, that reminds me a lot of DeFi summer when we had anti-ample retard attendees launching and doing 10x in fucking 12 hours. It had gotten a little ridiculous because of course Ethereum has been just shit for a while. That's a big reason why networks like Binance Smart Chain saw so much retail flow, called so much traffic. But one of the really interesting things is there's something called flash bots on Ethereum, which had really, really helped to reduce some of that congestion on the Ethereum network, in part because a lot of the reason Ethereum was congested is there's so many different AMM platforms or automated market making platforms, and that creates a plethora of arbitrage opportunities. Now, in the past, a lot of those arbs had been handled by PGA-based or priority gas auction-based bots. So these bots would get in there. Ethereum, as many of you know, has a gas limit on its blocks, and as these bots, bid up the gas on these, numerous arbitrage opportunities all over the place, what ended up happening was there was no room left in the blocks for anyone else, and Ethereum became essentially unusable. But hey, when there's arbitrage opportunities out there, when there's free money to be made, people are going to pay whatever it takes to make that free money. So with flash bots, it's basically just specialized software that miners run, that people were bribing the miners for transaction ordering, and et cetera. And it made a lot of these PGA-based bots obsoleted. It made them unprofitable. So the PGA-based bots were shut off, and that reduced a lot of congestion on the Ethereum network. So big props to flash bots. If you are a hardcore Ethereum user, a lot of people know about flash bots, and a lot of people are rooting for them. Now, number two is we had the Berlin upgrade for Ethereum. I think that happened in April. The Berlin upgrade increased the gas limit in an Ethereum block. Now, there were concerns on this because, over an extended period of time, the Ethereum blockchain occupies a larger footprint. It takes up more space. But that did make Ethereum much more usable. Before all this dog money mania, we had gas at 50 GUI. 45 GUI for an instant transaction. Now, even then, at $4,000 Ethereum, that's quite a lot when you look at Ethereum versus Solana, even versus Binance Smart Chain, which is becoming quite expensive itself recently.
And slow.
Yeah, and slow is what I've heard. A lot of what I've heard on Binance Smart Chain is it's so centralized, and a lot of the nodes aren't synced up. Like PancakeSwap barely works, shit like that. But of course, the big news today is dog money rugs, at least in the crypto world. Other big news that we will be discussing today, the CPI report. What does it mean? Why are traditional markets rugging? I'm interested to hear Rob's take on this as well, just because, hey, inflation is here. Doesn't that mean that, stonks go up? Why are the markets nuking? It makes no sense to me. But thanks for being here, guys. I'm sure this is going to be an informative episode. Let's get it.
Yeah, let's get after it. Let's start with a quick take on the dog stuff. I think, I really want to hear from Rob about CPI reports because I don't ever look at legacy, but apparently when they dump 2%, the world's coming to an end and we should be paying attention. So We'll get into that in a second. I'm going to quickly share my screen. I'll give you guys my best take, or at least highlights of what's been going on over there. That is, let's see, that is Vitalik Buterin's wallet. So VB, short for Vitalik Buterin, founder of Ethereum. He is on Etherscan. You can find his wallet. Yeah, he's got a lot of ETH. Only $35 million worth. I think he had 1.3 billion like earlier this week. So I don't know. He's been moving some stuff around. You can come check it out yourself. But what he did today really put a shock into the dog coin mania. So for those of you who aren't paying attention, like myself, up until yesterday, I started paying attention to this, messing around with some of my buddies, like, oh, like how do you guys even find these new dog coins? And basically what's been going on is once you create one of these little shit coins, Labradoodle, baby Kishu, like this is total, blow off top dog mania, because at this point, let's just take this one, Washu Init. Somebody can create that. So you see the creator contract, they publish it, and then they send half, presumably, of the supply to Vitalik Buterin's wallet as a burn address. That was, for whatever reason, the trend. Basically a little nod to him, basically saying, well, he has access to the keys, but why the hell would he care about all these shit coins? He's a billionaire. And so you send that in, and it's like a proof of burn. And then you send in some LP tokens, even, with a lot of them ending up in here as a lock of liquidity. And a lot of times you see these, and then you check them on Dex Tools, and they would pump in the first few minutes, obviously, because there is no pre-sale, there are no holders. It's literally buy-only environment. And then shortly after that, depending on who created the contract and how scammy they were, it would just rug, and they would make off with kind of a ridiculous amount. You put in 10K liquidity, it turns into 100K, you just dump it. So it was pretty ugly, what's been going on. And then some of them obviously popping up slightly more legit than the others. They have a website, they stick around, they don't rug, they want the 2-month moon. And then today, sort of out of the blue, 2 hours and 44 minutes ago, Vitalik pulled the liquidity, or at least the portion they had sent to him of SHIB, which, if those of you who haven't been following, is like, let's see, I got BNT up here. Let's take a look at SHIB. It is sort of like the Doge 2.0. It's the second largest, as far as I know. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it's like the only other relevant dog coin after Doge. And so it's been going crazy. It's hard to even read this chart. But, you hear reports on Twitter now of people that were buying SHIB, over the last month or two, and now it's worth millions of dollars. Like, it's gone up, quite a bit. So he pulled that liquidity, and just kind of out of the blue, no comment, and then he sold a ton of it to Ethereum. So you can see here, SHIB, I don't know. Actually, did he sell SHIB? Or he just pulled the liquidity, which caused SHIB to dump, and then he started selling all this Akita token. And he sold that all off to Ethereum, and then he sent that Ethereum and a whole bunch of other coins over the COVID India Relief Fund, which is actually something we mentioned in our newsletter a couple of weeks ago that is being run by the founders of Matic and a whole bunch of other people volunteering to help, because they're struggling over there with COVID big time. And shout out, it's a controversial move. I think a lot of people would say, that's not great. And then I think Vitalik might think, how about fuck you, stop sending coins to my address as a burn address, like stop, because it's also promoting, right? So if people are watching his wallet, like even just in the last hour since this rug pull of sorts, V Shiba, Inocure, like the Yoshi, like these things are still coming in. So I don't know. I think pat on the back for him. He's taken back Ethereum. It's basically crashed the network, and he's just, he's putting people on watch. He's saying no. And lastly, I'll just add that the founder of Matic, Sandeep, who is running that COVID relief fund, basically now sitting on $1 billion worth of, let me just pull this over here, sitting on $1 billion worth of this coin, SHIB. He now basically said, the importance of community, we're not going to do anything that hurts the community, especially retail community involved with SHIB, so please don't worry, SHIB holders. So it sounds like he'll be holding on to that, or they'll be holding on to those coins. I wouldn't worry about further dumping, but what a crazy day.
It is. I think one of my downfalls when I look back on these crypto markets is I just never get in on the true dumpster diving shit coins early enough. I feel like for those coins, I don't buy them because I feel like I'm sitting at poker table with a bunch of much, much, much better players than me. I know nothing about what's going on there, and I'm like, I can't participate in that game because I'm just giving up edge. You know, I'm clueless. So I never end up catching those. But holy cow! I mean, just to think about the potential of billions of dollars of potential like liquidity and value there. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they're worth $1 billion. The liquidity in the actual contract, or in the uni pool. Let's go take a look. It's only like 7 million, 7.8 million. So you could never really get that amount out. But obviously, Binance is listed it, FTX is listing it, and why not cash in on those fees? It's $420 billion in volume today just on Uniswap. I think it's 6 billion total. So there is money to be made hosting this coin during this mania. So you can't knock the exchanges. That's their business. That's what they do. But my first thought was like, yeah, liquidate that shit. Like donate that, whatever. But shout out to Sandeep. He said, I'm not going to dump on the whole world. Thanks, Vitalik, for doing your thing. I'm like you, Rob. I don't get on any of this stuff. Yeah. Power move from Vitalik today. Classic move of his too. No comment. Just get off my friggin' network with all your shit coins. And fees were like $700 at that time, obviously, because people are freaking out and selling. Most of the other dog shit coins, like you can see here, SHIB, Elon, Akita, Kishu, Kuma, like they've taken over the top 10. So we really have hit sort of what can only be described as peak mania, where there's no website, no Telegram, no white paper, no problem. Give me 25.
Yeah, it's just a fucking meme, and that's literally the reason that Ethereum has become absolutely unusable, over the last week, is all of these dog coin mania. And it is interesting, because there's a lot of people that are angry, at Vitalik for his actions today. And a lot of people are saying, well, Vitalik didn't donate that money to all of these places. All these retail plebs that bought these coins donated all of this money. But at the same time, you're aping into literal meme coins, right? I mean, shit coins. Yeah. It's not even like, oh, I'm trying to invest in DeFi or I'm trying to do this or that. You're buying something that is literally a Ponzi, is a pump and dump, and hopefully had that knowledge ahead of time. And two, not your keys, not your coins. Here's the thing. All of these projects, why does Vitalik have all of these dog coins? Because all of these projects used Vitalik to hype their coins. They sent Vitalik the LP tokens. They sent Vitalik the Akita tokens. They sent him the SHIB tokens. And the interesting thing about that is, in the blockchain world, not your keys, not your coins. Vitalik owned the private keys for those coins. Those coins were sent to him. You can't just expect that he is never going to do anything with those coins. And, moreover, he has a history of dumping things that people send to his address and sending money to charity. Yes.
Wow.
He's been known to do that in the past. So all of these projects like SHIB and things like that, they were like, oh, I really hope Vitalik, we sent 50% of the LP to Vitalik. I really hope that he doesn't rug pull and dump. The writing was on the wall. How could they have not known that Vitalik would not do that? It just blows my mind.
It was a risky play for so many reasons. And August in the chat just made a really interesting comment. He says, if it works, I'll feel like a genius. If it doesn't, I'll blame someone. And that is kind of the nature of the newbie crowd that comes in, right? It's like, why have I lost money? Who to blame? I don't think you can blame Vitalik on this one.
Vitalik, probably, he can do no wrong. But I'll tell you what. I will tell you what. The sad state of affairs is that Ethereum is virtually unusable again. Daniel, when is this going to end?
I think it just ended. Right now we're still seeing the fallout of just the market volatility in general. But I think that the top is in on these meme coins. And what happens in the future is still up in the air. But I will say one thing: before this meme coin mania, Ethereum had become I'm not going to say enjoyable, but usable again. It was reasonable, especially for a larger account. People didn't mind paying 50 GUI, 45 GUI for a transaction. Now I think that the top is in on these meme coins. I think that this meme coin mania is going to chill out a little bit, and that'll give Ethereum some breathing room, given time. Now I do think that this is going to take, maybe days, maybe a week to blow over. And because a lot of these guys can't even sell right now, and that's the sad thing, of it is, I'm Mr. TikTok. I've followed this guy into the latest dog meme. I've lost half of my money, and I go and I try to sell it on Uniswap like he told me how to do, but I have $1,000 worth of coins and it costs $600 to sell or whatever. It just makes it so it's not realistic, or even more so, you have to have Ethereum to sell. Maybe you don't have enough fucking gas to even sell your holdings, which are plummeting in value. Unfortunately, I do think that, this is going to be a hard lesson to learn for a lot of people. I do think that, when you look at these coins, they're up, 20,000%, they're up outrageous percentages. So it's very difficult to feel bad for anybody that's actually lost money on anything like that, because that's just peak greed. Who buys anything that's up 20,000% in less than a week? It doesn't make any fucking sense. This isn't always going to be a market where it's that easy. But we'll see what happens. The most interesting thing is there was a very obvious rotation to Ethereum-based DeFi happening, before the CPI reports came out, before Ethereum started nuking. And a lot of those DeFi coins, YFI in general, and we can talk about this as well. There's one thing that, a lot of people say hurts things like Bitcoin, and that's Bitcoin's unit bias characteristics. All that means is that it's literally extremely left of the curve. Like, oh, well, why would I buy, 0.1 Bitcoin when I can buy, 10,000 XRP? So what YFI actually did was they created something called Woofy. And Woofy was a way for people, or it's been called an experiment in unit bias characteristics. And basically what it was is it's a way, I think you can get in there and you can exchange your YFI for a certain amount of Woofy. But I think there's like 1 billion Woofy per YFI or something just outrageous like that. So if you have one YFI, you can get a ton of Woofy. And Woofy commanded enormous premiums over YFI yesterday. So, you can imagine what was going on there. You had the pros in there, they had their bots ready, and they were just arbing the shit out of this all day. It's happened before and it happened again. Now, I don't think that was a bad move. I think it's a brilliant move, actually. And I don't think that there's anything unethical or wrong with doing something like that and providing a more favorable, unit bias characteristic for somebody that wants to have that YFI exposure, but also wants psychologically to feel like that they've got a piece of something, that they've got a chunk of something. I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. But I mean, if you look at YFI right now, there's a $20,000 plus wick on the daily. It's just absolutely fucking crazy. And I think Random Task is getting that pulled up for you guys.
That's fucking insane. I can't, that woofy thing, it sounds like a bunch of people got woofied. And
yeah, a bunch of people did get woofied. But you know what? I do think YFI is going to bounce. Banteg is literally a savior of DeFi. And I know that you guys know I don't like Andre very much. But for every time Andre has rugged somebody, Banteg has saved your ass too. And I think Banteg's probably saved you a lot of times when you didn't even realize that he has. Truly, I think at least one of the good guys in DeFi, unless there is, shit that I don't know. And that's very, very likely. I do know that Banteg received some flack, during the EMN fiasco for running those same kind of arbitrage bots that I described that were arbing the shit out of Woofy and YFI. But, then again, there's nothing fucking wrong. Hey, let's mint a shit ton of Woofy. Let's make it so you've got to exchange your YFI for it. And if these TikTok apes want to FOMO in on Woofy, then whatever. Who gives a fuck? But We'll see what happens. There are a lot of strong performers in DeFi right now. If you look at Aave, Aave has broken its range that it's been in for 3 months, pushing new all-time highs. The chart, I think, even though it's retraced a bit, looks absolutely fantastic. You have things like Bancor and Sushi, which are extremely similar charts, in my opinion, where you've got these bull flag structures with really, really solid throwbacks and bounces. And that Aave chart, the Random Task has pulled up. I mean, it looks great. And, you've got the volume in there to confirm the breakout. Ethereum,
it's got to go higher.
Ethereum is bouncing. I don't think that this is because, every fucking time the market pulls back, every time there's a leverage washout, Chicken Little comes out, everybody freaks out. Oh my God. That's it. That's the top. The top's in. I don't think that the top is in. This season that we're seeing right now, this alt season is, and maybe I just don't remember how 2017 went down, but 2017, the rotation was more based on market capitalization, where you saw money hit these big caps, then it hit the middle caps, and then it hit the low caps. And a lot of people, including myself, thought that, this time would be very similar, but it seems that the rotations are more based on sectors for this 2021 season, to where, we saw DeFi pump, Ethereum DeFi, and, earlier in the year, and then BSC pumped, and then Solana shit pumped, and, then straight up meme coins pumped. Those meme coins were literally everywhere. And it was kind of regardless of market cap. And now we're seeing, hopefully, in my opinion, this rotation back to Ethereum-based DeFi, which is supported by, astronomical moves in things like YFI, strength in things like Aave. You also have a lot of strength.
Comp.
Bancor Compound is extremely strong. And if you look at these charts versus Ethereum today, which is a painful thing to do, of course, because almost everything right now is wrecked versus Ethereum. You're seeing a lot of things in the DeFi sector begin to outperform Ethereum, which is, I think, exactly what we're looking for, when it comes to an early sign of a rotation. What's going to go on here. Now, after Ethereum's dump today, it does make me wonder, a couple of days, does the dust settle, the controversy's over, and we resume up only? I do think Ethereum is on, an absolute moonshot to maybe $5,000. Or is Ethereum able to consolidate here for a little bit and give some of the DeFi offerings, on its platform and elsewhere as well, some of the other things that have been crushed versus Ethereum, a little bit of chance to catch up, a little bit of room to breathe. And I think only time will tell that. It's difficult to predict the future. This
little impulse, to me, it's almost like I can't believe, is it really that easy? Everyone's been speculating, okay, Ethereum's gone on an absolute tear. It's pretty much doubled in the last 3-4 weeks. When it stops fucking Hercules right in our face, what's going to happen next? And, we've been leaning towards it's going to be ETH DeFi next. And lo and behold, like, you get the Lone Ranger who's been pretty much kind of a turd stuck in the mud for a while in YFI. And YFI decides to do what it's done over the past 3-4 days. And then you're like, oh, well, I think the answer is right in front of us. It's ETH DeFi that's going to do it. And then, like, today, before the CPI, literally, Aave was up 25%. Sushi was up 20%. Like, every ETH DeFi coin was literally got the impulse 20% move. And, like, in normal Earth, a 20-25% move, like, return for a whole year is like, all right, I'm done packing it up for the year. See you guys. Like, that is a monster year. And we're living in a market where if you're kind of like reading the tea leaves and you're getting into the groove with these cycles, there's some really high probability plays that you can make here. And I don't think it, I know we've been talking about it, but even, there's a lot of alpha people are throwing out on Twitter. You follow some of these experienced traders, and I think they've been laying out this thesis for a time, like right out in front of you. And man, there is a lot of alpha that can be gained by just doing some homework and looking at what some experienced participants are putting out there for for the public to see. Because, I mean,
Yeah.
a day like today, still Aave's up 25% since the daily close last night. Like it's ripping everything.
Messiah, you nailed it. I mean, I think a lot of the OGs right now are, we were coping really hard with the fact that the charts we expected to do well, the strong fundamentals, were just stuck in the mud, maybe moving sideways, maybe grinding higher, but getting decimated versus ETH, while everyone was cashing in multi-million-dollar returns on Doge and other shitcoins. And that rotation could not be more welcome at this point. I think it makes sense to me. Like you said, we're seeing kind of sector rallies rather than perhaps, high, mid, and low cap type rallies, because first of all, possibly because there's just too many fucking coins right now, right? 2017, there was a lot less coins. There was a little less focus. Binance did not really exist until September 2017, and it certainly didn't have 400, 300 plus pairs. And so it's almost like humans now, it's too much. There's not enough liquidity to push up all the high caps, all the mid caps, all the low caps, but there's certainly enough to take concentrated bets in things like, okay, Doge just went whatever, 1000x. We're going to now rotate into SHIB, and we're going to rotate into every other dog coin. And I can't be more excited to see that come to an end, because I really wasn't a part of it, and that's fine. I'm over it. But what we're seeing now, like Rob pointed out, is that these top DeFi coins, they're almost hinting to us, here's the next thing. Here's the next rotation. And I don't even worry about, YFI. When it broke to highs here and it was going into what I thought was price discovery, I was really excited. I longed it. I got stopped out, and I kind of just ignored it. I didn't look back. I don't care that it's up higher here, because what it tells me is that I now have a sector I can focus on, and there are a lot of coins in that sector. There's going to be a lot of pullbacks, and I can get greedy now. I can start hunting that next rotation, because as we see here, Ethereum, yes, it's been on a rip, hasn't touched the 20-week moving average since May of 2020. I mean, this thing just has not stopped on the weekly. And right above here, if there's going to be like sort of a local blow off top, that's a big range. That's 4,800 to 65. But I'd expect, if we get up there, if we don't just consolidate here for a bit, which seems likely for the next week or so, but either way, once we get up into here, that's some really high risk stuff to be taking big positions there versus, some of these other names we just talked about, and then some of the trickle down from Wi-Fi, Aave, Comp, and all that. So, I mean, I'm excited. I could not be happier to see an potential end to this dog mania. I'm with you, though. I think that is the end of that. I think it'll be really hard pressed for people to start, aping into these things after today's sort of shock that was put into the market. Not to mention, half of them still have their liquidity over in Vitalik's wallet. So talk about like risky investment. But this is exciting times for me. And I think one of the charts I was looking at, I don't know what your take is on this. This is one that I feel like did well last summer. It definitely got a piece of this in August. Kava. USD, it's like, it's whatever. It's kind of just moving sideways. But this is one I had my eye on this morning. Didn't buy any yet, but I was thinking like the Bitcoin chart kind of looks good. You get this nice dirty low coming in, no volume, and then suddenly we've just got this kind of average buy volume is just bubbling down here. I mean, tell me that this just stays sideways, doesn't break upwards, I'd be shocked. So this is one name I was looking at. Do you guys have any other sort of what's after Aave? What's after IFI Comp? Like, what's your next step down there, Messi, for some big DeFi names?
I mean, Aave, Comp, Synthetics, which is one of the weaker looking DeFi charts in my opinion. Of course, you've got YFI.
Synthetics got a nice boost in volume. Actually, that's like all-time high buy volume on Synthetics today.
And Synthetics, in my opinion, is kind of bull flagging as well. I definitely think, and it looks like that might be a swing failure point for now. But we'll see what happens. Yeah, ZRX, Balancer. Now, of course, RGT, people are mentioning that in chat. One of the smaller offerings, RGT was hit with an exploit for, I think, 4,000 Ethereum a week or two ago. It takes a while to restore confidence after an exploit. I've always liked RGT. But just one thing to note is, in these market conditions, maybe confidence is restored at a faster rate. And of course, green candles can restore confidence very fast as well. But just something to remember, there's other things that haven't been exploited recently. And I think that those will be more attractive. You've got Alpha Homora. which is launching Alpha Homura V2 or has just launched Alpha Homura V2. MPH has MPH V3 coming up. You've got Bancor, which has Arbitrum coming up. Uniswap still has its Optimism launch coming up. One thing to note about the kind of market conditions that we're in right now is that news events are extremely bullish. People are looking for a reason to pump things, basically. And news is the perfect excuse. So keep your eye out, especially if you do want to play a little musical chairs here. I think that you can really augment your success rate by focusing on news events, getting out a 100 to 200%, and then resuming the up. Of course, Keeper DAO significantly outperformed most of the market yesterday. So as a holder of Keeper DAO, I was really happy to see that. Yeah, Curve, which is also extremely strong and I think extremely discounted as well relative to what it should be. So many different things.
Yeah. Check this out. On that note of news driven, you just reminded me something big is coming up for Polkadot, which has been weirdly quiet, right?
I haven't heard about Polkadot in a while, and it's strange, especially with all of the Ethereum killers, catching a bid recently, to not see, Polkadot not sharing and more of that.
Yeah, so that's one that like a buddy of mine put on my radar, and for what it's worth, this is the kind of guy that just sifts through the deep dark places of crypto and finds like the best value. He's the shitcoin maximalist extraordinaire, buying things like Ether at 20 cents or 50 cents before it fires up to $170. Like, this is that particular buddy of mine, and he mentioned, he's like, what, dot Decoded is coming up. They got this big event that no one's really talking about yet, the biggest Polkadot event of the year, basically like a consensus for dot. That's coming up on the 19th, 20th. It's going to be online. It's an event. It won't have fun parties. But that's the kind of event where Polkadot projects will save up and drop their news. We might hear something about parachain auctions. We may hear something about Kusama. Next thing
it is really interesting, because not just Polkadot, but I mean, there's a lot of like these legitimate projects that have been failing to catch a bid recently that have been going sideways for 3 months, and it does make you wonder, that's either accumulation or distribution. And I have to assume, based on the rest of the market, that it is in fact accumulation, and after 3 months of consolidation, I mean, holy shit, what comes next? I mean, it could blow your mind.
Yeah. Well, this is charging up. Yeah.
No, for sure. Listen, guys, this stuff like has marked up so aggressively since January 1st that I think this is a blessing for these legit networks, to be chopping and ranging here after moving. Like Polkadot went from $4 to $40, right? Like for it to be chilling here and having that stable bid and really creating, this new level of perceived value, I think is tremendous. I mean, Polkadot as it stands right now, it's still a $35 billion market cap. I mean, that's real value that is sitting there in that network, like real value. So I think it's great. We can't expect for everything to go parabolic all the time. It doesn't end well, right? Like when we make big moves, when big tokens with big values 10x, it's good to see some consolidation. It's extremely healthy. Let's reset this market. And the more and more you get these resets that are at much higher levels, it's phenomenal. And one thing you talked about, and I see Ledger in the chat. What's up, Ledger? How are you, buddy? You're a fucking legend right there. I call him legend status. But and then I do see somebody talked about Ledger putting in the generational low on Rook, which cracked me up because I think Messi gave him shit that day when Ledger's like, "That's it, I can't take anymore. I'm out of Rook." And I think it happened to be actually that guy's right. The generation,
definitely legend status, but don't wear those elastic pants around me.
What kind of elastic pants? Did I miss something?
No, apparently.
Some comment yesterday.
I think on Up Only, for some reason, they were discussing pants on the Meltem episode, and I think Ledger wears elastic pants.
Oh, that's true.
You've given up, bro.
That is pure capitulation on
Hey, dude's got kids, man. I'm already buying elastic pants in preparation for being a dad. You know, I think once you have kids, you can get into that.
Pants. Yeah.
Yeah, I got to find out what kind of pants you got there, Ledger. Let me know. DM me. You know what you said, Rob, about this kind of floor coming in. You don't want to see instant parabolic activity in your coin. You know, Dan said that. I think it was last week. He's like, I don't like when my coins go parabolic, because then I'm like, fuck, I guess I can't hold this. I'll have to sell it and reload later, because you just kind of know, like, you never know what's going to happen, but you know. Yeah. And, you know, in cases like Neo and ETH, you know, you can look parabolic and still go for 5 weeks and go 10 more X. But at the end of the day, it's not healthy, as you say. And what this is doing is creating a sort of floor. And that's not to say it can never go down from here, but it would seem very unlikely. And if you want to look for an example of what happens, again, what Messi said with news driving things, you know, this is the kind of market where we just need a reason to pick a coin. And Matic did this exact same thing here. It seemed like forever. It was basically from March until the end of April, just moving sideways. And then it's like, oh, look at that. QuickSwap's way cheaper than Uniswap. Fees are really high, but look over here. We have something better. And boom, they're off to the races. They're almost 3x from that level. 2.5. But again, that's a multi-billion-dollar market cap. You're not going to get your 1,000x in a week. So it's a lot of capital to move that. So we have examples in the market right now of what can happen out of these consolidations. And I agree with you. I think the longer they stay in here, generally the stronger they are. We just had Atom breaking out. I know that's one that you really like, Rob.
Yeah.
And actually, this is a nice looking chart right here. I mean, we had the consolidation. We've broken new highs. We've got new volume. And now we're kind of touching back to a little throwback level. This is the kind of stuff I look for if I want to be long on an asset. And I'm like you. I don't, you know, nerd out on these like new shitcoins that try to catch the latest flavor. I really like the fundamentals. I like to fall asleep at night knowing that my coin's not going to rug pull. It's not going to exit. And I think Dot and Atom, you know, maybe for the now, more so Atom, because it's already moving and it's got the volume. But you tell me that Dot is not going to have some activity around their huge event of the year.
You know what's really interesting
and I'll say
both those Atom and Dot charts look very similar to Matic before Matic broke out.
Exactly. And we're seeing actually there was a lot of names like that. I don't have any off the top of my head here. I'd have to find them. But it seemed like this whole sort of echelon of projects were just huge rallies and then just moving sideways. And so it's like, okay, what's going to spark the next leg? We saw the spark in Matic. I think Atom likely moved first, and they had something coming out. What was their DEX, like Galaxy DEX or something? And that's kind of coming up in the last week.
They had QuickSwap, didn't they?
QuickSwap for Matic. But
okay.
Atom has like a Galaxy
Atom.
DEX
Sure.
or something like that. So it's like an interchain DEX, and they were doing like a test net on that over the last couple of weeks. So I'm not surprised.
Atom also has Secret Swap right now, you know, which allows you to trade without the fear of, you know, basically front running, sandwiching, et cetera, et cetera. You know, an old coin I used to talk about used to be Enigma. It's now called Secret.
Mm-hmm.
They use secure enclaves to obfuscate your transactional data. Pretty cool stuff. You know, I don't think that it's caught on a lot yet. I mean, the chart, you know, looks very similar to a lot of other Ethereum-based DeFi. You know, you had these big rallies and, you know, just kind of months of sideways. But you know, they are doing that.
Yeah, and I'd rather be in a coin like this right now, like people talking about, is this the top? Is this going to dump? When I see a coin like this, I can go up and do it. Yeah, like there's just less sellers baked into it. I mean, up here, I get very nervous when I'm in positions, and I certainly can't take any. And I look at this chart, and I'm like, okay, you know, nice breakout, little volume off the bottom, nice little bull flag here. Like, what's the next move in this market with these rotations after what we just saw with things like Doge, Ethereum? I mean, we saw the huge move in Bitcoin that rotated into Ethereum, clearly. What's next? And I look at names like this and I just think, oh, fuck. You know, if I'm not taking risk on something like Dot, Atom, Secret, whatever, you know, what am I trading?
It's so funny. When I think of Enigma, I think of three things. I think of Ledger, I think of Messi, and then I think of Tor Bear, who I've met many times in Chicago. It's like Enigma was a great trading token on Binance. I mean, that thing moved. When Enigma pumped, like, it pumped and it gave you opportunities to get in. That Secret chart on the weekly, holy shit. I mean, if there's any uptake on that network, look out.
It looks good.
That thing could really rock and roll. But you know, the problem with some of these charts is that some of the charts that really could explode, they really, in theory, when you look at it, you're like, this is just on a death march, right? It's kind of like really a dog shit chart because it's come off so hard and it hasn't really rallied.
Yeah, it's like a great chart if it catches a bid. If it catches a bid, like it's gonna fucking go. But is it going to?
Exactly. And you know, I think like the one thing you were talking about with news is important, and being on top of news and kind of knowing when some of these catalysts are going to happen. Like, you know, you look at the Polkadot chart and you know that there's a big event happening. You're kind of like, well, shit, I've really got to keep an eye on this because if it does go, it can really go. So you've got to know when these events are taking place. And even like this morning, for instance, on the inflation number, you know, we've seen a lot of people asking about it in the chat here. We all knew by living here and by watching prices and watching commodities markets, watching everything over the last month, over the last 2 months, that inflation has been running hot. I mean, you really have to, honestly, if you're in these markets and you haven't kind of gotten that feeling that inflation's been running a little hotter, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it was pretty clear. So the knee-jerk reaction to seeing that inflation number this morning, the CPI number, which showed, you know, the hottest inflation in 13 years, it wasn't really a surprise to me. And it didn't even seem like a surprise to the market. The knee jerk was Bitcoin rallying, right? It wasn't Bitcoin selling off, but this idea that, oh, wow, well, now we really do have inflation. And the Fed told us, Powell told us point blank, we want inflation to run hot, higher than 2%. We think that any near-term inflation is going to really be transitory, which means it's going to come and then it's going to go. And that's due to us coming out of this pandemic where they shut down the economies, that it was a really kind of depressive event. So as we come out of this and people start going out and traveling again, it's very natural for there to be upward price pressure. There's more demand. So you couple that with serious supply chain issues. Like, they're serious. We've seen what's happened with the lumber market, right? That finally broke a couple days ago, or maybe even yesterday.
What's the ticker on lumber?
WOOD.
Go figure. Okay, smart ass. That's enough out of you.
I'm not sure. But you can go to like Fred should we at Hardwood on that one? Is that how you Zoomers do it?
Hardwood coin.
Yeah. Fred has a lumber index, and actually FTX now, they've got a future that tracks the St. Louis Fed's lumber index. So you can always kind of go there. But all we've seen, I mean, look at soybeans making a high, corn making a 7-year high. Like, prices are going higher. And a lot of it is a supply chain thing. And some of it is just we're coming out of a pandemic and we're starting to like heat up again. So I think this is a dip to buy for Bitcoin because as we saw that the bonds got hit, right? So they sold the bonds off pretty hard, which means that interest rates went up on the report this morning. And everything else went down except for the dollar, which rallied. So the idea that the Fed is going to be put in a tough place where they're going to have to start peeling back their stimulus and all that, that's this idea here. But you know, the Fed kind of clearly said to us they want inflation to run hot for a while. They want to make sure that it's not transitory. They have not been able to meet this 2% inflation target for a long time. And by putting trillions of dollars out in the hands of people, by keeping these rates low, by QE, buying up all the debt they can get their hands on, you better believe that there's going to be inflation eventually. And the bottom line to me is that fiat currencies, the dollar, right, the euro, the yuan, the yen, those should lose value when compared to harder assets like Bitcoin,
like gold, even though gold's really been underperforming. But hard assets should win. And I'm a buyer of this particular Bitcoin dip because I just don't, I think we're going to kind of digest this news and think to ourselves, okay, what do I want to own in a time like this? And it's probably something like Bitcoin, because the debasement of the dollar and other fiat, it's not ending anytime soon. That's my view, at least. That's my bet.
Yeah, I have a really hard time buying Bitcoin right now as a crypto guy because there's so many different assets. I think your hard asset take makes a lot of sense. So if I'm like a dollars and gold and assets guy, it's like, okay, yeah, Bitcoin makes sense. And it's a slower, easier hold probably. But within crypto, not only do I just see it getting grossly outperformed by Ethereum, so I'm like, wow, how did I not switch my base asset to Ethereum? When we saw that breakout happen, I still had a bunch of Bitcoin. I was like, yeah, I rotated some into ETH, but I was like, why not rotate most?
Yeah.
I think I did end up with most, but not all. Anyways, we're back into the pump chaser zone. We got rejected here at the range highs. We're coming back down in here. We got a nice bounce out of it, rejected again right at the 618 here. You can see. And we're back into it. So I'm with you. It is at a nice dip area. You can even draw some stops here and get it back at the range EQ if we lose that. But then you just zoom out, and I'm just thinking about the weeklies and where Bitcoin is. Now, this is what I put in the newsletter this week. If Bitcoin runs out of this consolidation, which I do think it will, I'm not one to say oh, that looks like a top, at least not a blow off one. That's for sure. Which we may not see this time, right? It may just be a little sideways, a little down, a little up, whatever. And it might just be a growing asset for 10 years, whatever. But if we break north of this consolidation with that kind of strength that we've gathered now, I'm getting the fuck out of altcoins and I'm going to be into Bitcoin. And that really speaks to what I see on dominance too. I mean, even a multi-week pullback on this would be so violent. And I don't want that. I want altcoins right now. I'm looking at DeFi names like Messi is that's my next play. But my God, am I watching that Bitcoin range closely? And if we break north of that or just show some real buy volume bounce back inside of it, I am going to be looking for this. I mean, come on, is there going to be some kind of, retracement here? And even if that's and then it's more down, I could see new lows in Bitcoin dominance indefinitely with what we're seeing with DeFi and actual utility. And Bitcoin can be 100K at 20% dominance. That's my future. That's my dream scenario.
Yeah.
And that may be way off into the future.
I'm with you there. And the one thing we have to remember, whether we like it or not, Bitcoin has become more institutionalized. There is a lot more institutional ownership of Bitcoin, and it's getting bigger in Ethereum as well. So this idea that we are going to see on systemic moves, when we know that it's a lot of algos and a lot of programs that are digesting and getting in or getting out of risk, Bitcoin is going to it's going to have a little bit more and more of a tie to traditional markets and bigger picture money flows, because there is such a more institutional ownership now in the space. So that's something that we shouldn't necessarily be surprised about, but it doesn't mean it's going to become more and more correlated necessarily. It probably will, but it's still gonna have that uncorrelated nature. And a lot of times when I talk about Bitcoin, I do refer to almost crypto ownership, and then within owning crypto, you're deciding: am I in Bitcoin? Am I in ETH? Am I in layer one majors? Am I, there's times that you're going to have a different distribution of what your positioning is within the whole kind of crypto space. So
it's still the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
And I hear you on that. This dip in general for the markets around the world, it's what are we looking at? Let's look at some growing, emerging market tech stuff. I mean, crypto, we're already here, but we're here for a reason. It's even if it catches a minute bid from the world, 1% rolls into it, we're at a $5-10 trillion market cap. I mean, it's exciting times. I don't see a rotation, from ETH back to Bitcoin dominance bouncing all that until ETH gets up here. This level just looks like it needs to be visited through all this space, but how about this Livermore cylinder, Messi? We talked about it. You pulled up the example, and it actually did the thing. I mean, I was like, yeah, this looks bullish.
Doing the thing.
Holy fuck, dude! Like
It's doing the
textbook
thing.
Vertical right after that break.
It's doing the thing.
Oh
You know,
my-
a lot of people have eyes on that 0.08 level, but you know, I agree with what's on the chart right there. I think we're going to overshoot that. I think we're going to go to straight to 0.1, and then that's when I think that we'll see us pull back, and I think 0.08 will serve as a support level in that instance.
Yep.
Yep. And
Someone,
if it can, go ahead.
No, someone asked about ZRX earlier, and we should probably talk about it because that's one of Ledger's bags too. And I've been eyeing this thing, and ZRX teases me like
It's been a real shithead. Yeah, it's been teasing me a lot too.
It really does. Ever since that, that initial spike on the news of they raised 15 million and all that, like it really got me thinking, okay, it's ready. It's been a while, but it's ready. And since then, it pulled back 50, 60% to the fib almost. And we get this interest, and we all know that ZRX is one of the most widely used platforms, tokens in DeFi itself. But the question is, like, when's it going to make one of those epic runs? Can it? Will it?
It's doing the thing here. It's doing that sideways thing that we just spotted
for a while. I mean, look
for
at
too long, since friggin' February,
well,
which suddenly is not.
Yeah, I mean, look at the volume there. I mean, look at how long that other period of blah was after that big volume spike. I do think it's going to happen. I just don't know when, and that is obviously the hardest thing. But it's probably going to happen suddenly, where we get a big green dildo, and all of a sudden it's kind of repriced. So
how did we not see this coming? Kind of vibes.
Yeah,
where it's like, oh, there it was. Like I missed it. And that might be the hardest thing in a bull market. When people say, oh, 2017, I wish I was there. For those of you who were not there, it's not easy. It wasn't easy in 2017. It's not easy in 2021. What you guys just went through with missing out on dog coins, if you did, or like somebody messaged me the other day that said, I just owned, $17,000 worth of SHIB, and now it's worth 24 million. But guess how much I own? Zero, right? Like they sold it. They sold it at a small multiple. Cool, great trade. But like they're not millionaires. It's hard. And one of the hardest things is sitting in a coin that you have conviction about and actually being there when it moves. Because in the time you're waiting, like right now, you've been waiting 97 days on ZRX since like the last major impulse. In the time since that's happened, you've missed out on how many other things, and that'll weigh on you, and you will rotate, and you will chase, and you will not have a plan. Like you gotta have your plan, you gotta have your reasoning, and then you gotta size it, right? So you're in ZRX, but are you dying if it doesn't move today? Like you've got other positions, right? Like what would you say your percentage exposure is to this, even though you're quite bullish on it?
It's small as a overall percentage, but it's more one of these things where you have to be disciplined and not try to chase something after it has moved already. If you start playing that hot potato, that's when you just start to miss everything, right? So I'm not getting out of my ZRX bag right now. I'm not longing my longs and getting long a future also on ZRX either yet, but I want to a little bit. Like I do think it's going to happen, and that's one of those names where you see ETH. You think what comes after ETH? Oh, it's ETH DeFi, duh. And then you see all the ETH DeFi names kind of start to run this morning, and ZRX is kind of like sitting there just sucking its thumb a little bit, but it's not. It's there's the microstructure on all this stuff. It plays a role. You never know why some people are offering their tokens out or creating supply, or why people aren't getting in bigger to push it higher. But the one thing, and tell me if I'm wrong, have we seen like an inordinate amount of fake breakouts over the last 2-3 months in names where literally it looks like, oh, it's broken out, and then all of a sudden it's back and it's hitting range lows like 2 days later? That's the stuff that drives me absolutely mad.
And it actually, like, Adam did that to me a couple times too. I mean, you think you've got a breakout, and literally either Bitcoin will pull the rug on it or something else will start to selling off. And literally within a day or two, you're back at range lows where you thought you had a breakout underway. So
yeah, YFI did that to me back in February.
Nasty. Look at that.
Yeah, and I had never traded YFI really. I mean, like way back on Uniswap a little bit, but yeah, I was like, okay, I'm gonna get on this DeFi train, YFI price discovery. Let's go. DeFi is gonna mega moon, and then just dead. And I mean, I'm not holding that, and I'm not in it. So yeah, there's definitely been a few of those. Maybe ZRX is one of those ones I was talking about earlier. Like, is that your, like, you know, sort of mid cap after things like Comp, YFI, Aave lead the way? Because I'll tell you this, it's not a sexy name. You know, ZRX, you hear about it. It's like, what is it doing? Nobody even knows that they're using it half the time. It's certainly not, you know, it's not sexified. So we're going to have to see, you know, I think it's definitely in my list right now as far as like that sideways action, ETH DeFi. I have a bag based on, you know, our discussion. But one of the things you said, and I think this is important for anyone watching to understand, is that, first of all, these are asymmetric bets we should be placing. You don't need to be 50% exposed to a coin because you're so sure about it. Throw 2% in, throw 1%. Like, it's harder when you have a small account because you just feel like you're making lunch money, even if it 5Xs. But, you know, try to treat your account, no matter what size it is, the same. It should be percentage-based risks. And if you put 1 or 2% into these things, and it makes it so much easier psychologically to end up in it when it moons, if it moons, whatever. And I think ZRX, I struggled with that. I went in on our last show when you spotted that 8 mil, and I won't lie, I bought on perps. I longed it on perps. And one thing I've learned about myself is that I don't sit well for 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks in a perp position. It's just the funding. It's all this shit. It's, you know, it wasn't hugely leveraged, but it's got to be spot and it's got to be small if I want to have like a longer term, mid-term play on it, and I don't want to miss this YFI move. If I bought 0.1 YFI, I'd still own it.
Yeah.
But I bought 2. And so I had to sell them, and now I don't own them, right? So a great example there.
I'll tell you another one that I really fucked up good, and the fake breakouts just kind of got me, was Kyber Network. KNC, I bought a bag, I traded it well, I thought, and that thing faked me out one too many times. And I literally got back in probably 80 cents higher than where I sold it. And whatever, you take a loss. But if you still like something and you want to get in higher than where you kind of got out because you were de-risking, it's fine. You know, it's
a new trade.
Yeah. So
you got to think of it as a new trade, you know, and I suck at that, right? Where you miss the first impulse.
Yeah.
And then you don't get back in, like you don't treat the new trade and you miss like the rally, like AVAX or whatever, when it went super ham.
Yeah. But this thing, like 2 fake outs just got me. I think you could see where I got faked out. It was like the double, and I thought we were going, and then I was like, oh, well, it bounced back, and then it literally just, they robbed. Yeah.
Rob capitulates. And then you don't look back, right? Because you just sold, it's moving sideways. You're like, oh, what else is going on in the market? And then like a week later, you're like, oh shit, leaderboard.
Yeah. And then I see some random, like, it's off your radar, and I see some tweets about Kyber going to $20 and all this stuff, and kind of something's gonna come out, and I'm like, yeah, gosh, if this thing goes to fucking $8-10 and I sold my bag at $250, I'm not gonna be too happy. So
no, and if you had the conviction on it, and here's the sick thing, like we should talk a lot about bullish throwbacks, because a lot of those panic days when people are asking themselves, is this the top? They're looking at ETH, they're looking at Twitter, and meanwhile, look left, and your favorite shitcoin just hit like a, you know, shitcoin, altcoin, whatever. Your favorite coin just hit like a beautiful bullish throwback, and a lot of this, you know, the more I look at it, and this is my bread and butter, like when I was really, and I admittedly haven't been as much lately, I've been too busy, and I've just been kind of aping around a bit. But when I'm following my trade plan, like you find a chart, I don't care where it is. I'm looking for these levels and I'm just setting bids and alerts. And maybe I get filled and maybe I don't. And on those death days, when maybe otherwise you're running around like getting stopped out or panic selling or trimming exposure because you're worried and you were overexposed at the wrong spot, instead of that, you're just getting all these alerts that are like filled. And you just have to have conviction at that point that your setup, your level will hold, you manage your risk, and you can catch these kind of entries. They're not rocket science, but they take a certain amount of planning and execution, and then obviously sizing so that you don't have to freak out when you get 10 fills on a dump day and you start wondering, should I even be a trader right now? I'm like, I just bought all this blood, it's going down. And if you check Twitter that day, everyone's calling tops and but bear market is on, right? So Kyber chart looks good, man. This thing, I don't know exactly at this level right here, but the climb up has been fairly textbook with throwbacks, and you can even see one in here. Just last week.
Yeah, I'm interested in that one right now. One that I caught a good little rally on was Alpha. Alpha's
that thing moving?
It's moving.
Damn, we talked about that too. Saying, oh yeah, there it goes. See, we talked about it back here. I was like, oh yeah, Alpha, and then I ate shit back, on these lows. I ended up stopped out on those breakdowns, but here she goes. I mean, this is it, right? Moving up, moving down, sideways through the reload zone. And if you catch that breakout, you don't even have to buy the breakout. You just see it and then start doing what we just talked about, planning those buybacks. Like, is this level going to end up being a really nice entry, but not from below? You want to maybe wait on that throwback in a week or two.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the play here. It's not that I like the PTSD has definitely calmed down a bit. But I mean, how many times can you get that head fake right there at that level where, I mean, if you're long, it's probably a good place to trim, right? I don't know. The idea of playing the throwback, don't chase it when it runs and play the throwback and buy it then, I think is probably the thing to do there.
Yeah, that's a good example of what we were just talking about, because this is the day, you see it on a leaderboard, you're like, oh, 25%, yay, we're finally moving. And what do? You watch your position you just took go down for 10 days while everything else starts to break out. So that's typically the psychology of it anyway. So if you can find some of these breakouts, after this level breaks, I mean, this is it's a really nice looking level. It's put in here. 1, 2, 3. We're coming up on 4 tests with a really significant move on volume here. I mean, not insano, but like based on the last 10 days, this is significant. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if we can start trading above here, this becomes like a really clean looking area to buy, maybe around 3,800, 3,900 sats. Mm-hmm. So I might have to put that on my list as well. Alpha.
Yeah. Hey, Daniel, can you talk to me a little bit about Uniswap V3? Because a guy that I've been following since I got into Twitter was an early crypto Twitter guy, Securities. And Securities, rock solid dude. I really like his insights, and he's just a stellar guy altogether. But he was saying the other day that what he was seeing with the liquidity and some of the slippage, he was scratching his head. It didn't necessarily add up. So are you guys, I know you guys are big Uniswap users. Are you seeing anything that's not necessarily adding up? Is V3, has the launch been gone as expected, or are there things that they're still trying to iron out?
I think everything has gone as planned, and really the thing is there was a lot of confusion around. People thought that Uniswap V3 was supposed to alleviate gas costs and, was supposed to be more efficient in that regard. But that's just because they were misinformed. Uniswap V3 is going to alleviate gas costs in the sense that Uniswap V3 is pretty much the flagship launch partner of Optimism, which is true level 2 for Ethereum. And Uniswap V3 isn't about the retail user. Uniswap V3 is more catered towards institutional liquidity providers. Now, Uniswap V3, of course, the narrative is capital efficiency. I don't know if that's a valid narrative or not. What allowed Uniswap V2 and other AMM platforms to aggregate so much liquidity over time was that anybody can come in, one click, now I'm a liquidity provider, I'm a market maker now, blah, 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 right? But with Uniswap V3, I went in and messed around with it just to, play with it. And you have to establish a range that you want to provide your liquidity and this and that. So Uniswap V3 is basically an aggregator of custom bonding curves to where people have supplied liquidity in different ranges with different fees, with different slippage setting, blah, blah, blah. So I think that's where a lot of the retail gripe has been coming from, is just that it really didn't make shit better for them. You know, it was hyped, it was sold, and then all of a sudden you're looking at it and it's like, oh, well, you know, how does this help me out at all? The reality is right now it really doesn't, but in the future it could really improve liquidity conditions around DeFi, especially in, you know, things like stable coins, on things where you're trading maybe REN BTC to WBTC. It allows people to you know, provide that liquidity and also buy and experience that really, really tight range, you know, and not have much slippage. Now, here's something that's interesting. Vitalik Buterin himself proposed something in the Uniswap governance forums, that Uni basically become an Oracle token, which is interesting and has interesting implications. I need to read about it more, but that's the big news on Uniswap right now. You know, that and the Optimism release coming up. If you want to read about that, just go to Twitter. I think Uniswap, Hayden, all those guys have been retweeting all that shit. I mean, it's a big deal. You got the founder of Ethereum making governance proposals in your forums. But
Not
for
bad.
me, the big question is capital efficiency a valid narrative, you know, to really take Uniswap token price to the next level? And that's something that I think, you know, we'll find in due time. I will say the initial reaction has seemed to be a rotation to Sushi and Bancor, which, you know, Sushi and Bancor, you know, both have their strengths and weaknesses, but Bancor in particular focuses on providing a really good experience for the retail liquidity provider, you know, and you have no impermanent loss. You get to get in there, you get to collect fees, you can supply single-sided liquidity. It makes it really, really easy. Now, SushiSwap is really, really good in the sense that they onboard a lot of new DeFi projects through their onsen program by providing those sushi rewards. You know, Sushi has Bento, which is really interesting, and, you know, other features as well. So we'll see what happens.
I think that Sushi, I think it's going to surprise some people to the upside sooner than later. I'm seeing more and more really kind of gigabrain people who have made a lot of good calls in DeFi and a lot of good, you know, you say fundamental analysis, but the theme with Sushi right now is how the amount of fees that it's generating, and the same thing I'm reading from you know, some smart people is the most undervalued token in DeFi or in crypto, and relative to the fees it's generating and what it is actually, I guess, giving back to token holders. So it's something I keep seeing. I'm seeing it from people that I have followed in the past because they do great research, and there's only so much research that one person can do. So I lean on other people who I trust and who they've gained my trust through their performance. And I'm seeing the same thing about Sushi. I think a lot of these people are buying a lot of it. I think that we're going to see some real upside there. Now, granted, if the bottom falls out of this market, is Sushi going to, you know, motor higher? Hell no, it's not. But if this market, you know, stays healthy, does Sushi have a chance of outperforming? I think the chances are getting better and better, and, you know, better than 50-50 to me right now. So that's something that I'm looking at. And, you know, you can go into Twitter and search, you know, Sushi with the hashtag and undervalued, or, you know, search for some of those key terms, and you can find, you know, some names talking about it. And I would, you know,
Dude, Sushi, you got me looking at the chart. I don't know why I never looked at Sushi. It was like I missed it early, and then I don't watch it. It just made all-time highs on buy volume on FTX, and it's not even close on today's daily. And that, to me, you know, it's like, you know, we saw Wi-Fi, we saw Aave, so it's almost like this bid. It's like the market, the whales, whoever, they decided today that's a rotation beginning, right? ETH kind of slowed down a little bit, cooled off. So when I then look and I say, well, Rob thinks, you know, Sushi's worth a bid, all-time high in volume just came in on an otherwise kind of dreary day. Wi-Fi just went to 95K. I think I just picked up some Sushi on all those reasons combined. For, like, again, sized it. It's spot. I'll have you know. I'm not perping that thing. But I just picked up some sushi for the first time ever because I really like your take. And even the 4 hour on a throwback right now looks decent.
Dude, how about it's also got the meme factor? I mean, if we're in this meme part of the cycle, when you've got a token that actually has network value and it is undervalued based on true, transactional volume and stuff, and it's got a meme factor. I mean, look what they did. Go to Uniswap.com. Some sushi supporters, they bought that site and redirected it to sushi.
Nice.
Go look at
that's savage,
dude.
Yeah,
another one too. I think it was Binance. Some other site they redirected to Sushi Swap also. These guys are crafty. It's a meme. It's a Coinbase listed token. It's probably the memeiest one on Coinbase. Coinbase app just reached #1 in the App Store. I don't know. I honestly, it just seems like a positive expected value bet to me. And I like when you can find those. So
yeah. Well, you're my guy. You said you have guys that you'd like their ideas, their research. You are my value bet guy. So, but I'm not gonna do what I did with ZRX, and just go ape into like a way too big perp long on the day. But just put a little bit of USD in my FTX account over there. You know what I found out the other day, and we do have to wrap. We're back in the studio. That's our hint that we're getting near the top of the hour. But another shout to FTX. I just found out I can lend my USD for like 12%, I think 14% right now. But then I can still long on perps at 1x using it. So my collateral is still there. That's crazy. So I don't know if anyone didn't know that. So
That's pretty dope.
Yeah, and like if nothing else, I'm just laying in bed at night. I'm like, it's hourly payouts. I'm like, I'm gonna just lend this USD overnight, make whatever that is, $90, $100. It's free money. And then I wake up, I unlock it. You have to wait up to an hour. But even if I wanted to just sit there, I can 1x trade it while lending it. Like, I don't know, it's sick. Fun little thing I just found out.
You gotta get hip to some of the basis trades on there, and you can find little niches on FTX where you can earn a little greater than that 10% by buying a spot coin and getting short either the perp or a quarterly future. There's so much opportunity in this market right now. If you are not in the US and you get to access FTX, you get to access some of these derivatives exchanges, there's low-hanging fruit all over the place. But that, interestingly enough though, the funding rate froth that was in this market for a stretch, it's really kind of been sucked out for the most part. I mean, even on this ETH run, the funding rate for ETH futures not been too rich at all. It's really kind of been hovering slightly positive, not really paying shorts a lot at all. So
is that because people are doing what you're saying? They're loading up on ETH spot and then shorting those perps on the way up to capture that risk-free rate?
I think there is a lot more of that smarter institutional money who's like, wait, there's basis trades that are paying 100% annualized right now on these offshore exchanges. Sign me up. We've got an entity that's based in Hong Kong or based in London or based in wherever. We could do that trade too. I think a lot of that, like there is more and more of that coming in, which in the end is very helpful to just the normal user. When you want to ape into an ETH perp long, you're not going to be paying an arm and a leg for funding every hour. That's positive. So we want that competitive nature up from liquidity providers, like people who are in there putting money, risk capital to work to lock in 20% annualized. Like that. It is great that you can trade with your dollars that you're lending out, and I think FTX, for those of you who are lucky enough to be able to use FTX.com, it's phenomenal. But
yeah, no, they're doing big things. I've started, like everyone I talk to now, I'm like, get on FTX. It's a whole other echelon for me. I love it. The last thing,
people to smash that like button.
Producer's been doing it in the chat. Hit the likes, guys. Give us some likes. Show us some love if you haven't already. Smash it,
brothers.
And a sub won't kill you. If we got 200 views and only 100 subs, it's awkward. So feel free to sub too. Let us know that you'll be back, and you can hit the notification button for any surprise videos that come out, or Shitcoin Church when it comes up. Sometimes different times. You want to be aware of that. Hit the notification bell. Lastly, in summary today, dogs, probably that phase is over. High probability Vitalik rugging the shibs, and a few other items that came up. We're looking at Polkadot next week. They've got a big event coming up on the 19th. That's Polkadot Decoded 2021. So check that out if you're interested. That could be a catalyst to set off DOT onto its next leg, as well as a whole bunch of DOT projects that are looking really good for parachains. And then lastly, YFI, Aave, Comp, all showing signs perhaps that the ETH to ETH DeFi rotation is about to begin, which could be very good for May, June, July. We want to push that a little further. So I hope you guys enjoyed the show today and got as much out of it as you could. That's all the alpha we have for you today. There's not a whole lot else that we can think to talk about. I've got to go get my vaccination. I don't know. I'm going to go try to crash this walk-in clinic across the street. Let you guys know how that goes. If I grow an extra arm, you'll be the first to hear about it. Till next time, I'll be back Friday. Anyone else have anything final to say?
I don't know. I'm kind of shocked we didn't put up a Rook chart today. It's up 16, 17% on a bloody red day. I think we're doing our man Messi a disservice. He took a lot of shit on the Twitters.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but stay poor, whatever. It's all good with me. Here's the thing, and you get most of the time the guys that are that are acting like that. I've got a 10% day and I've just made 5x their entire portfolio. So whatever.
Yeah.
Let's get off my back.
A hater's going to hate, man. I think if I just take this quick peek here, it is up out of the reload zone that I was waiting on, and this breakout is on volume. I personally, as a coper of non-holding Rook, I think I can still get in on this move. But I don't know if I will. I don't know. $500 token. I don't even get to hold more than.
I am looking at 500 right now as the level that needs to hold, for continuation. So who knows? We'll see what happens.
What do we call Rook? Are we rookies?
Rookies.
What are you?
I don't really know.
The fib extension points to $1,400, so I might have to try
rookies.
I might have to pick up a couple rookies here.
Who knows?
Those
we'll
woofies or whatever.
Yeah, one rook equals one ETH. Burn it in your brain.
I'm so balls deep in ID.
Ledger's saying that in chat, so that kind of makes me think that he's going to be rotating into it after he makes a ton of money on his rotation to YFI and the dip. So we'll see.
Damn. Nice play, Ledger. I'm so balls deep in Everest ID right now. I just keep adding. So that's in the reload zone. We'll see, man.
Where do we buy that thing?
That's on Uniswap, so you can't buy it unless you're a billionaire. But they did just announce a Bitfinex listing, so that's coming up. It just said kind of keep an eye on that. Finex, not the sexiest place to trade your shitcoins, but it is a legit exchange. I mean, it's been around, presumably going to be around. They had to pass a lot of securities tests to get there. So that'll be a cheaper entry if you can trade their Bitfinex. But
Leo's $4 now, isn't it? That thing's
Leo moving, yeah. That was a thing, right? Remember when that came out? It was in the bear market. It was hot for a bit, and then it dumped for 3 years. We'll see. The FTX partnership with ID, I still feel like there might be. All the bag holders are hoping for a listing there. Hopefully not on perps, because we all know how those listings end up for 2 months. But anyways, whatever, guys. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah.
Outstanding tomorrow, and I'll see you on Friday on Hero Labs Live, guys. Take care. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for coming, guys.